This is task 6, which is called atraumatic tie, and the idea will be is that we'll use a 4/0 silk tie, and we'll pass it through the tab on the Coke can. This Coke can has been modified by placing 30 pennies in it, which equilibrates to a 90-gram total weight. So we have pennies in this can to give it some weight. As you can see, we have a standardized template here that is 2 inches and 7/8 in outer diameter. As the tie is placed, this can cannot slip out of this standardized template, or else penalties will be assessed. We have also modified this can by placing epoxy glue on the tab to fixate it in this upright position and to prevent it from becoming dislodged. We've used permanent markers, in this case orange and blue, to designate a 4mm target area where we wish the ligature to be placed. If the ligature touches the outer blue marks, then a penalty will be assessed. To perform this drill, we'll orient the can such that the opening is towards the edge of the bench. We will use our 4/0 silk tie, pass it through the loop on the can, and we will place these as shown here without the strands crossed, and at this point our time will start. We'll then very carefully throw our first knot. We'll cinch that down onto the target zone. We'll alternate our hands and tie down. We will take care not to lift up the can. We will also take care to tie these knots very snugly. Once we have all 3 knots tied, our time will stop and we'll assess performance. So the first thing that we are looking for is to make sure that the tie is within the target zone, and as shown here, indeed it is. The tie should also not slip from side to side. If it is not tied very tightly, this ligature will easily slide from side to side. But in this case, there are no accuracy errors and there are no gap errors. We tied square knots. It'll be very difficult to actually slip our scissors into this, but since we know we followed the protocol of tying square knots, there will be no knot insecurity errors. We can then take a scalpel and cut this strand out to perform another repetition. I'd like to show the base of this can now with our template, and it is actually difficult yet feasible with this 90-gram weight to do the exercise I had shown. What you want to avoid is the can slipping out of the template as shown here. If at the end of the exercise the base of the can actually comes over the full width of that black line and obscures part of the black line, then an error is assessed for movement of the can. We'll do another example and show some of the pitfalls to avoid. So again, we get this drill set up as shown here with the suture strand going through the tab on the can, with the can set up in the center of the templated circle. And some pitfalls to avoid really is lifting the can. If you even apply a little bit of pressure in elevating this can, you can see that I've quite easily drifted out just with some very subtle moves on this suture strand. So let's say that I have my first suture tied down where I think it's appropriately placed in the target zone. If I'm not very atraumatic on that second one, just with that little move I did, it jumped out of the circle. What we do not allow as part of this drill is to actually touch the can to place it back in, or to lift it to place it back in the circle. So those are not allowed and will count as disqualifiers. Also, if I don't tie down my knot squarely, you can see on this example the ligature easily passes from side to side on that tab. So that's considered a gap in the knot. We'll cut our tails, and then we may be able to show that this knot was a little bit insecure as well.